welcome you all to the Center for Policy Dialogue's National Dialogue on Energy Transition in Bangladesh, Employment and Skills. So we are expecting some more guests, but unfortunately the chair of the session is suddenly got ill, so being the keynote presenter as well as an additional responsibility I will take as the moderator of the session. As you know, that energy transition is now globally discussed, and the discussion is also extended at a larger scale in Bangladesh. Often, the energy transition discussion in Bangladesh highlights on environmental concerns more, as well as the energy mix related issues or the emission related issues. However, the employment implications of the energy transition is also a very, very important aspect that we also need to understand. Meaning that how the job sector or the energy-related jobs will transform or change in the coming decades through this energy transition. So that we also need to know. From the Center for Policy Dialogue, this is rather I would say an exploratory study. We have just started. I think this would rather start a much more deeper discussion in the coming days and years. We hope so. And there are much more issues to know on energy transition and its implications on employment and skills. So from that angle, CPD has taken this study and has done some exploratory research with secondary data and information. And based on that, today's presentation will be made. We are very happy that today we have a number of distinguished panelists with us. I would like to mention especially that Ms. Fahmida Akhtar, NDC, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of Bangladesh. Then Mr. Muhammad Alauddin, former Chairman, Sustainable and Renewable Energy Development Authority and Rector, Bangladesh Power Management Institute. Then we have Mr. Humayun Rashid, President, International Business Forum of Bangladesh, IEPMP. We have with us Professor Dr. Ijaz Hussain, formerly with the Department of Chemical Engineering, Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET. And we have also with us Professor Khosru Mohammad Selim, Professor, Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Independent University of Bangladesh. So we are very happy that we have a set of distinguished panelists with us whom could guide us that what sorts of policy recommendations could be made based on the findings of this study. So this study is actually been carried out, though I am actually presenting it, but you will find the paper, draft paper here, as well as the presentation in your folder. It's been carried out by Mr. Mashfiq Ahsan Ridoy, Research Associate, Center for Policy Dialogue. Unfortunately, he is currently traveling Bangkok to join another program. And Dr. Rafat Alom, Consultant, Center for Policy Dialogue. So three of us actually were involved in this study. So as part of the program schedule, let me actually make the keynote presentation at first. Then we will go for a panel discussion as well as the open floor discussion. So we are very happy that we have a very good set of participants here, whom we could expect a much more in-depth discussion. So the title of the paper is that energy transition is, in Bangladesh, its implication on employment and skills in the power and energy sector. Basically, though it is a large title, but we are basically focusing on the power sector, not so much on the energy sector, though. And we know that globally there is a significant transformation currently undergoing on the energy sector, and Bangladesh is not out of it. And though the pace of this transition may be slower, but already it has been widely realized that the transition is very, very important, and both the policymakers, governments have taken necessary initiatives through policies and various kinds of measures, as well as the private sector also take various kinds of programs. Development partners also take various kinds of initiatives taking that transition into account. But however, for Bangladesh, transition would not be so easy, but because that it is an overwhelmingly dependent on the fossil fuel, particularly in the power sector. As you know it very well, over 95% of the total energy is generated, or the power is generated through the fossil fuel-based energy mix. Less than 5% comes from the renewable energy. So under such a overwhelming predominance of the fossil fuel, won't actually make the process so easy. And that also has a link with the energy infrastructure, as well as energy institutions, as well as energy-related human resources. So all are overwhelmed by the fossil fuel-based energy. So both institutions, infrastructure, as well as human resource, all are currently prevailed by the fossil fuel-based perceptions, as well as the expertise, as well as the concept and operations. So that is dominant there. So the process won't be the same as it would be in other developing countries or in the developed countries. But as it is, as I said, that employment transition is already been observed in different countries, and globally it is found that 10.7 million new jobs has been created in 2021, as according to the international study on the renewable energy sector. So that is a good information that already employment transition has been observed. And this also means that some of the jobs will be redundant, and also some of the new jobs will be created. So we have to take this reality that some of the jobs may not be fully redundant, or some of the jobs may be required at a lesser scale, while some of the jobs will be required with the new jobs will be created through this process. So we have to take that into account. As I said, for Bangladesh, this kinds of study is quite new, and I would say quite at an initial level. So we try to explore this scope of the employment and skill aspects through this energy transition. So this study has identified the structure of the employment, analyzed the possible energy transition structure and its implications on employment and skills, and try to estimate the net employment creation. So that we also do. So that would be a rather a value addition of this study, that we try to estimate the new employment targeting the 2030, which is very near. Within 7-8 years, we have targeted a very immediate future target, in not taking very long target, which is rather, we think that is quite realistic. And thereby we have provided recommendations. And this study has considered the targets, energy-related targets, based on the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, which has already been ratified by the ministry and also by the parliament. But sorry, এখানে এটা দেখা যাচ্ছে না, সামনের স্ক্রিনটা দেখা যাচ্ছে না। So this study has used the data provided in the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan 2023. We have also some other national plans as well. You know it, that at this moment there are some two plans are currently at the draft stage, Integrated Energy and Power System Master Plan, as well as the Renewable Energy Policy amended 2023. Those two policies are at the draft stage at this moment. So we couldn't take those policy targets here, considering some of the debates there, and still those are in the draft stage. But we have used some of the assumptions made in those study for the purpose of better clarity of this analysis. So we have taken knowledge support from a number of key stakeholders, and we also use the data from the Labor Force Survey 2017 to understand the structure of occupations which has been provided in the survey. Unfortunately, there is not such bifurcation provided in terms of the renewable energy-related employments. That is not there. Only overall employment is there. I think that is one of the recommendations we have provided later on, that in the future, labor force survey should actually differentiately provide information on employment on the employment related to the renewable energy sector. So that is also very, very important. BBS should take that initiative in the future. So we applied some thumb rule, and you can easily guess why we did that. Because we understand that this is the targeted power that will be generated by 2030. We know it from Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. But we don't know that how much per unit of electricity generation could create new employments. So there are some international studies. Based on that, we have used some of the thumb rules here. In terms of calculating the employments. There are two ways to calculate these kinds of employments. We have mentioned it. It is called two job functions. One kind of job is related to construction, installation, and manufacturing. It is called CIM. You can easily understand in what phase I am actually mentioning. And another is that operations, maintenance, and processing. That is also related to the operational aspects or the maintenance aspects. So these two-dimensional employment aspects have been considered while we calculate the thumb rules or create or using the coefficients based on the study Wei et al. 2010. It is available in the website. So we have used that. Of course, we understand that there may have a contextual differences between countries. That coefficient may be different, but unfortunately, this is the first study in Bangladesh, so we are just initiated with the limited resources, so we didn't go for a calculation for this coefficient, rather use the international coefficients available in other studies. And another aspect here that is important to mention at this stage in the methodology part is that renewable energy developed in off-grid and renewable energy developed and generated on-grid. And you are quite aware that off-grid expansion has already stalled. Rather, on-grid is rather expanding. You know that the solar home systems and others are not actually expanding much. Rather, more of a mini-grid, microgrid, or the grid-based one will be expanding in the future. So that is our assumption. We admitted that, and we have used that here. No, that is not a very good thing to admit. We expect that off-grid should also grow, but given the current reality for the calculation point of view, we assume that the current level of off-grid will continue. May not expand in the future much, but on-grid will expand. In various forms, on-grid will expand in the future. That will also be net metering system or others that may also happen in the future as well. So that we have considered here. So what is the overview of the energy transition, and what it says about the employment transition and in the global literature? I think the transition is not simply a technical alteration that we all realize. And it has implications on economic, social, and environmental areas. So that we also need to take into account. And while we say that energy transition, and we like to link it with the skills and employment transition, we have to admit that it's an interdisciplinary issue. So that interdisciplinary skills encompassing in engineering, economics, environment, and politics. So all three aspects have a dimensionality in the process of transition in the energy transition and turn into a more successful and efficient employment transition in the future. And another aspect that is also very important from the skill and employment point of view, all these will happen more in a digitalized manner and interconnected way. So there may have a cybersecurity and the cyber-related aspects that also has a skill component that we also need to take it into account. So we have those two dimensionalities that we also have considered here while we did this exercise. What we see in the generation point of view, we see that the generation point of view, both wind, solar, hydro, and geothermal power will grow globally, of course, at a different level in Bangladesh as well. And that also has an implication in terms of the manufacturing part, particularly the designing, installation, operation, and maintenance. Then it also have a relationship with energy storage. কেউ একজন দেখবেন এটা করছে, এটা নড়াচড়া করছে, এটা ফিক্স করেন সামনের এটা. Then it has an implication on energy storage as well. And also for implementing big projects, since we are now at the stage of constructing new projects in the renewable energy sector, so we need professionals who are good in project administration. So this is another aspect of the construction part, that we need also good, efficient project administrators who have knowledge about renewable energy related technical issues, as well as the project development related aspects as well. And as I said, it has a social and political component. From that angle, community engagement is very, very important for the renewable energy part, because these kinds of things often happen in a community-based form, in a diversified form. So I think community engagements will be important, and that kinds of skills, operations, and the professionals will also be required. On the other hand, the transmission and the distribution part, we think that smart grids and grid integration will be very, very important. Though it is very easy to say, but very difficult, very, very difficult in the context of Bangladesh. So we need professionals who have knowledge about grid resilience, and to continue the smooth supply of power using the smart grid. So we need those people as well. And for that, I think people having skills on grid management, data analytics, cyber security will be an important aspects to look at. On the other hand, from the energy use point of view, much more in the future, data analytics and artificial intelligence will be used for ensuring much more efficient energy production, competitive pricing, as well as consumption, and the resource management point of view, which the government is currently suffering without having an integrated national dispatch system. So these kinds of artificial intelligence will help in the future to reduce the wastage or more efficiently operation of the generation and the transmission distribution system. On the other hand, from the efficiency point of view, I think we need people having skills on energy audits, building retrofits, or energy efficient technology adoption kinds of knowledge. So those kinds of areas are also important. In terms of the environmental sustainability point of view, we need people having understanding on impact assessment on environment, carbon accounting. We may go for carbon trading in the future as well. So we need competent people as well. While we nowadays discuss and look for some competent people on different areas, we often find one or two, everybody pointing out one or two like this paper. So we need more and more these kinds of people in the future to support the private sector to grow and develop their enterprises efficiently. So there are some successful examples. I will not go in detail. We have found German case, Denmark case, Sweden, Canada, Spain, US, South Korea, Scotland, Australia. One of the main aspects of that, they have highlighted, I would say, on two areas. One is that investment on skill development, retraining, reskilling. That is one of the aspects of the part. Another is that social support or the social benefit part. So these are the two areas most of the countries are actually taking various kinds of initiatives, like unemployment insurance and unemployment benefit to be insured to them. So that has been used in some of the countries. And also job-related subsidy need to be provided for the private sector, particularly for those who are in the fossil fuel energy generation sector. They may or the professionals working there, they may look for subsidy in case of their jobs demand reduces or their salary decline and not getting enough rise systematically. So those kinds of things are actually largely been discussed, that how the transition being supported by these countries. One is skill upgradation, reskilling, and investing on that part. Another is social support, social benefit, providing unemployments, providing the job security, or employer support and employer subsidy for that. So these are the two broad areas we found here. But all these kinds of things need financing. We understand. These are not just simply a thing that anyone can do. So this financing is related to retraining and the reskilling part. This financing is related to income support part, both unemployment benefits and salary subsidies. This financing is required for a labor market matching services, where is the vacancy available, what sorts of technical knowledge, competencies be there, how many the vacancies are available. So a labor market matching will be very, very important. Nowadays, we have seen that there is already have a job switching happening from the fossil fuel sector to the renewable energy sector. Very recently, we visited two of the renewable energy power plant located in Cox's Bazar. One is School wind power, another is Technov solar-based power plants. And we see that the professionals have an experience working in the fossil fuel-based power plants as an engineer. So they have already predicted a bright future, so they have already shifted to this sector here. So these kinds of switching will happen, but much more matching information, data and information will be required to expedite and to provide job availability. And from the employer point of view or the investor point of view, they also need the skill available, professionals available in the market. Otherwise, they will also find it backtrack not to go for investments. So these kinds of labor matching is very, very important. As I said, employer incentives is required, as I said. Then green finance will be required, green bonds, and for energy efficiency projects or the renewable energy related projects. So those kinds of areas financing will be required. How Bangladesh's energy transition has now been projected or being planned? As most of you are actually aware that how government is currently planning and what is the national policy documents are being mentioned about this transition. It is already targeted 2050, but we know also the decade-wise targets for 2030, 2040, and 2050. But this is the current energy mix in the power sector, and you see that it is still overwhelmingly dominated by gas. And there is a rising use of furnace oil and also rising use of coal here, you may see, and also some rising use of import. So current energy structure is not very impressive in a transition point of view. But it is also true that the reality will be such that that private sector and the government will be bound to go for more renewable energy in the future, because our gas reserve is depleting. New gas wells are not yet exploring much in recent times, though government has a target for extracting 46 gas wells, but only 6 are currently in the plan. And those 46 to be completed by 2024, but only 1 year left. So we are not as per our aspirations on the gas development point of view. So I think, and the energy-related fiscal burden and the financial burden is astronomical at present, and this will continue in the coming years as well. We realize that. So transition is obvious, and I think that governments will much more forced to go for much more energy transition. But the documents are still not very much positive about renewable energies, policy documents. IEPMP, this is the IEPMP target set in for 2030 here. How the gas share will reduce and how the furnace will reduce. Coal and power import and hydro will be at some standstill, while it will be taken by the clean energy, mostly by the carbon capture technologies and others, and some will be the renewable energy. But we think that if we consider the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan of 40% of the renewable energy by 2041, so we are actually focusing on that part, and thereby we have calculated that how the employment transition will take place in between 2030 as well as 2040. So these are some of the mix happen. But as I say to you, the energy transition in Bangladesh would not be as smooth or as it is happening in other countries, though I am sure that other countries is also not happening so smoothly as global civil society is actually demonstrating various kinds of activities. So, but the Bangladesh energy transition won't be of that smoother level as it is happening in other countries. So what is the structure of employment at this moment in the power and energy sector? let us actually discuss. We found 37 different categories of jobs and employment in 6 different categories in the labor force survey. What are those? And those are related to management, finance, technical personnel, field personnel, IT, and support staff. These are the 6 broad categories under which the labor force survey mentioned about power and energy sector jobs. And those, those are quite known to you. Managements are related to MD, business and administration professionals, managers, sales, marketing people, construction managers. Finance include finance managers and accountants and others. Technical professionals includes manufacturing supervisors, construction supervisors, power plant operators, electrical engineering technicians like that. Field personnel includes well drillers, meter readers like that. IT includes information and communication technologists. Support service includes clerks, accounting, bookkeeping clerks, stock clerks, then building caretakers, then electronic equipment assistants, drivers, cleaners like that. So these are some of the broad employment jobs we have found in the labor force survey. But there are some additional jobs we observed. While we do the key informant interview, we found that in the large-scale plants, that they have some department-wise additional jobs available there. And those are related to like this. In case of engineers, sorry, this is not large-scale one. This is for all categories employment in the power plants. For the skill requirement, I think engineers require these kinds of skills, like business case development, architecturing, designing, then cost estimation, equipment manufacturing, sourcing, innovative mindset like that. And the managers and all have the separate skills that have been mentioned here. One of the things that we like to mention here is that while a basic, a large part of the operation in the normal fossil fuel-based power plants and renewable energy power plants are quite similar. So it has been apprehended by the professionals while we visited the power plants that a normal professionals, a normal technicians or engineers working in the power plants can start working with their existing knowledge in the renewable energy-based power plants. So there is a possibility that existing knowledge here could be partially utilized in the renewable energy-based power plants. We may hear professionals here present here and also others. They may also enlighten us that whether this is their observation or not. Definitely, these are new jobs will be created, but some of the existing jobs with the existing knowledge can be supplemented in the renewable energy-based power-related activities. As I say, to the large plants, they have some specific departments where it is customer interaction, implementation, operation, and the maintenance-related departments. And the occupations are like design engineer. In case of the lead implementation, there is jobs like lead engineer or technician, and operation and maintenance, there's operator, technician, and the sales and service workers need to have some additional or specific tasks and skills that we also, while you do the interview, they have mentioned that these are some of the specific responsibilities or specific jobs that are required in the large-scale power plants. Now we like to do some estimates about employment because of the energy transition. And what we have found is that we have 2 key energy-related transitions that will happen. We assume that, and that is the process of transition. One is that a decrease in employment will happen, that is obvious, and an increase in employment will happen. That is also obvious. So we have to understand both these realities, that how much decrease will happen and how many new jobs will be created. That we also need to understand. And what is the net impact of this decrease and increase of the employment transition through this process. However, since we don't have much data, we do not consider the energy efficiency related issues during this 7-year period. 2023 to 2030, obviously there may have some energy transition, but in Bangladesh, still the efficiency related coefficient is not so significant. So we assume the existing efficiency level will continue. So we didn't actually consider any additional weight on the efficiency part. What we found in case of the energy part, electricity part, As per the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, they have provided 3 scenarios. One is business as usual scenario, another is above the business as usual scenario, another is very high ambitious scenario over business as usual. So we don't consider the business as usual scenario because obviously there's already a transition started to happen. So what we consider above the business as usual scenario, which is mentioned here as MCPP. You see it in the middle column. And another is very high target, MCPPM, very high target ambition. So that is mentioned here in the last column, and we targeted 2030. So as per the plan, so Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, it will reach to 28,975 megawatt of electricity by MCPP. And for the very ambitious point of view, it will be 53,000 megawatt worth of electricity by 2030. So we don't think that that is quite a realistic one. So if we actually differentiate it, what we observe in this table, you see that the projected generation of this 28,000 or 29,000 is that the fossil fuel will generate 18,000 megawatt of it, while the renewable energy will generate, as per the target, will be 6,000. So still the fossil fuel will dominate, but if you see the figures of the fossil fuel now, it is 25,000, it will reduce to 18,000. So there will be an overall reduction of the fossil fuel use and overall rise of the renewable energy use. So that is shown in the last 2 rows. That is there will be a decrease in generation of the fossil fuel by 28%, and there will be an increase in generation of renewable energy by 80% by 2030. But if we consider a much more ambitious target, MCPP 53,000, it will rather decrease the fossil fuel use by 30% and increase the renewable energy use by 1,200%. So we don't think that will be quite a realistic one, but as the targets is there, we have calculated that part as well. And as I said to you, is that we have used the thumb rule and the coefficient here in terms of calculating the employment. And what we found here is that that in case of the coefficient, that is how many employment will be created per megawatt of electricity. That is the coefficient we have used. And if you see that for the biomass, in case of the CM, as I said to you, construction manufacturing, it is 0.19, while in case of the operation, maintenance, and processing, it is 1.61. While it is wind, it will be 0.8, and in case of the processing part, it is 0.09. While in case of solar thermal, it is not available in Bangladesh, it is 0.69, and in case of the processing, operation and maintenance processing, it is 1.34. And in case of solar PV, it is quite high. In case of construction and manufacturing, it is 5.1. And in operation and maintenance, it is 2.5. So you can find that the variance of the coefficients of employment generation because of additional or for 1 megawatt of electricity generated through this process. Either it is construction and manufacturing or it is the operation and maintenance. And some of the coefficients are quite high, more than 1. So, and some of them are less. So I have red marked those which are, the coefficient is quite high. Like biomass, it is high in operation maintenance. Solar PV is high, both construction and operation and maintenance. So that we found here. And based on those coefficients and the earlier calculation of electricity to be generated, what is the net employment, what is the overall employment to be created? We have assumed the current energy mix in the renewable energy, where 85% is currently generated from solar, and 10% biomass, and 5% wind. I guess that this mix or this ratio may change. Wind may rather go for a rather higher share compared to the existing level of share currently we see in the renewable energy mix. Anyway, we have considered it here, and we have done this exercise. And as I said to you, is that off-grid expansion is rather, at this moment, stalled. So we have considered the same level of off-grid will be persist till 2030, which is comprises 31% of the total renewable energy. So we have kept that aside. And also the on-grid will be the remaining part. And that will be, if the 6,000 is the target megawatt by renewable energy, we assume that on-grid will generate 5,631 megawatt. So, and the remaining 368 or 370 megawatt will be generated by off-grid one. And if we use those calculations, I will not go in detail how I calculated that, but use those coefficients. You can also do this calculation. And we found that a total of 13,778 jobs will be created in the renewable energy sector in the till 2030. So that is the target of this. Off-grid is 2,796 and on-grid is 10,098. And if we consider the ambitious one, MCPPM, the overall employment will reach to 33,000 through this renewable energy transition. So these are the two figures. Is that one is that 14,000, 13,700, and another is that 33,000 of additional employment created. Of course, we admit that that energy sector, power sector is not often very much of a labor-intensive sector. We know it very well. But obviously, within that, there is an employment opportunity there, and that is in the construction maintenance, construction, manufacturing, and implementation part that we already said. But so here we found that this amount of additional jobs could be created. And this is just a hypothetical number, and it could be rather much more higher because one of the challenges we confronted is that there is no local manufacturing base of renewable energy components. So that is the limitations of us. So we have to assume the global coefficient, which may be different for Bangladesh, maybe much higher. Because of maybe inefficiency or because of maybe the use of things differently. But obviously, for the sacrifice or the considering here, we do not actually go for any hypothetical number. We use the global coefficients. But we checked these numbers with experts that whether it is more or less realistic or not. They said that okay, that this may be plausible. This may happen. But as I said to you, is that this calculation has some limitations because we didn't consider energy efficiency. We didn't consider the incentive structure because some incentive structure will change in the coming years, which may disincentivize the fossil fuel and incentivize the renewable energy. And that may have a much more faster progress of the renewable energy in the future. So we couldn't actually consider that change because at this moment there may have not a very much faster pace of growth, but it may go much more faster in the coming years. And also the energy composition we consider the existing mix, which we also may be changed in the coming decade. So these are some of the limitations we admit, but based on this, for the calculation we use it. On the other hand, what would be happen about the employment decrease? As I said to you, that we have heard the employment increase part. What about the employment decrease part? We have done some thumb rules here as well and found that the total employment currently in the energy sector is in total what is that? In total, at this moment, total employment is 17,000 in the fossil fuel part. But what we found here is that if we consider the MCPP, the initial target of just above the business as usual level, this 17,000 target will be reduced to 16,663. So there will be a decrease of overall employment in the fossil fuel sector. Not very much, maybe only 500 or 600 jobs will be reduced, but that will not increase, that we are actually saying, rather slightly decrease. But if we consider the MCPPM, much more ambitious target, then that will slightly increase the overall employment to 25,600 by 23. So much more of 7,000-8,000 additional employment will be created in the fossil fuel part. So that will happen. So what is the overall net implications of it? we found that this will create an overall net employment impact. If we consider both, that renewable and the non-renewable, overall impact will be an additional 8,900 employment will be created by 2030, if we consider the MCPP. And if we consider the MCPPM, it may create employment of 37,000. But mind it that most of these employments will be created through renewable energy. For the MCPP, 100% will be created, much more rather, will be created by renewable energy, or MCPPM, 80% will be created by renewable energy. So there is a positive progression possible if everything goes in a targeted manner as per government's plan and programs. So these are some of the estimates that we like to mention here. But for these jobs, it is simply a mathematics, but we need required skills. We need required professionals. Otherwise, an investor will not invest there. Investor is there. They are intent to invest in Bangladesh as well. But we have to have that, not only the policy environment is necessary, but also the logistics, human resource, that also be made available. Otherwise, investor will not go. So what kinds of skill set will be required? And what would be the composition of that? It is that in case of, if we consider the sector-wise, while we go for an interview, we found that in terms of the sector-wise, high demand will be created in the solar part, maybe wind part as well, though it is still at a lower demand section. In case of the skill-wise differentiation, the high demand will be created in the jobs that require minimal training. Medium demand will be created STEM professionals, and low demand will be created non-STEM and administrative professionals. So this would be the required skill-wise differentiation. In case of the occupation-wise, high demand will be created for skilled engineers, moderate will be created for skilled technicians, and low demand will be for management, sales, and services. You may differ, and we are very happy to welcome your views regarding these kinds of categorization, or you may have a different perspective as well. So we'd like to hear from you. What sorts of new jobs will be created through this process? We found that through this process, renewable energy technicians will be required. With some and who have knowledge and capacity and the skill to installation of the solar panels, maintenance of the wind turbines, upkeeping the hydroelectric systems, and operations of geothermal plants, which is not available in Bangladesh. Energy storage specialists. We need the specialists having specializing knowledge on storage technology, like batteries, then hydro storage. Then we need smart grid engineers in the coming days, who have the professional experience working in designing, development, and management part. Then we need energy analysts who have knowledge and capacity to examine energy markets and evaluate potential of the renewable energies in the market. Then we need environmental planners and consultants who can assess the environmental consequences of renewable energy initiatives. Then we need energy efficiency experts who have knowledge of how to make the buildings, transportation industries energy efficient by using through optimizing energy efficiency and mitigating the overall energy consumption. Then we need green building designers and architects. Now already we have seen that it is not that building is already there and solar-based PVs and other things are actually constructed afterwards. Now from the construction stage, building is designed in an energy efficient way. Building is designed in the solar PV storage mechanism way. So that kinds of designers, architects will be needed in the future. So these kinds of professionals will be required in the coming days here in Bangladesh. Some of the jobs will be redundant. I see, and some of the jobs will have invalid or less demands in the future. For example, fuel handling and storage personnel who are currently involved in managing, transporting, and storing coal, oil, and natural gas may not be required as much as it is currently being used. Because in the renewable part, these kinds of storage, fuel storage handling are not required. Very simple. While we went to the renewable energy plant, we found that very small and very simple kinds of operation, not of such a noise and not of that storage kinds of areas and issues that those are not required in the renewable energy-based plants. Then we also don't need ash disposal and pollution control specialists who currently need the coal-based plants for coal ash related issues, because those are not created in the renewable energy part. We also do not need so much of the boiler operators and also combustion engineers, because the operation in the renewable energy will be non-combustion nature, and the boiler won't be required there. So those kinds of professionals will be less required. Then we also flue gas desulfurization, where those use, maybe some of those may not be relevant for Bangladesh in full, but those are there. Then coal yard workers and conveyor operators, those also will not be required much in the future, if we think that government will stick to not expanding the coal use in the future. And oil and gas refinery workers, that is also may not be required as much as it is currently being seen. So we observe that there is some of the new jobs, and there will be some additional jobs. Some of the jobs will be invalid or less required in the coming days. So what is our recommendations? We have what we see overall is that surely through this energy transition, there will be creation of new employment, and there will be show for creation of some unemployment. It may happen. But it is, as I say to you, the transition in Bangladesh won't be faster as we observe in other countries. It will be rather slower. So the employment-related transition won't be much impactful. Rather, it will create much more net positive impact in the overall employment generation areas. So what are our recommendations? One is that we need to invest in workforce development. Of course, you understand there are some new jobs will be created, new skills will be required, and they need to have training for that. And educational institutes to develop curricula accordingly. Currently, the curricula are much more based on fossil fuel-based energy-related supply chain. And these curricula need to be redesigned in the renewable energy-based supply chain system. So that kinds of curricula is currently not available. Some of the universities have introduced some courses, but not the whole supply chain segment. They have transformed, and curricula is not developed accordingly. So those professionals coming out from the sector or the universities, they are basically fossil fuel-based technological know-how and knowledge. So a whole system of curricula need to be redesigned in this part. Same is true for the vocational training centers. They also need to cater the technicians and the skills that is required for there. And also the green building technologies and knowledge, and that kinds of knowledge to be provided to the workers, and that investment is required for that. We think that policies are also need to be focused, targeting the energy transition. I think a specific policy, maybe energy transition and employment and skill policy, may be considered. I think that kinds of things is necessary. And that can be done because government is very efficient in policy development, may not be in terms of its implementation, but at least we can actually push to the government to go for a new policy for energy transition and employment and skills. Then we have to replicate the global good examples. We see in Germany, Spain, they have the energy wende policy, feed-in tariff policy, you know it. And some of the obstructions they have wiped out. So those have to have taken lessons, and our paper has identified some of those. I already mentioned that redesigning the academic curricula, so that is needed. In the global level, MIT regularly does this. They have always in a revisional phase, in a review phase of how the market demands is there, and for the graduates, and what sorts of curricula is needed. So they regularly experiment that in collaboration with the industry. So industry need to come out to support to the academia for this curriculum development, particularly in the engineering schools. Those are there. We also need to promote the local manufacturing. I think there is a good potential for local manufacturing in case of the solar panels development, in case of the wind turbines and others. May not be by the local investors, but it is, there are foreign investments who are there. Chinese investments is there. German investments is there. US investments is there. Other investments are there. We should actually invite foreign direct investments in case of manufacturing part of these components. That will further reduce, significantly reduce the overall installation cost and overall solar panel costs. So we have to think of that, and that has a, as you see, that there is a huge implications of employment in that part. Then we go for green jobs reporting. I think industry should be promoted for green jobs reporting. That how many additional green jobs they have created through their activities in the energy sector or the transport sector or in other activities or non-fossil use. So how many additional jobs they have created. So they should go for green jobs related reporting. And that has been done in other countries. Singapore, Netherlands, they have regularly used this. USA, they have those kinds of reporting system. And they have the database also. And these kinds of, as I said to you, labor force survey, as well as the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, they should go for separate reporting of the employment-related issues, green jobs-related issues. And we need a developed transition plan. Of course, the fuel mix-related transitions are quite clear, but we are not sure about the employment transition-related. None of the documents has specifically focused on the employment transition in any of the existing the plans. So we have a specific transition plan on employment targeting the energy transition. And of course, those needed financial assistance. None of these jobs could happen without finance. So government, through its domestic resource, its internal finance, as well as the foreign development partners, as well as international organizations, they should come forward to support for this energy transition, for various kinds of support to contribute in this process. I think this is rather an initial study. We are not mentioning that this is this is an all-covered thing, never. This is rather an initial study and rather an exploratory one. But we think there are lots of scopes for future studies and future knowledge for the policymakers, for the practitioners, for the development partners. And for that, I think we need much more the linkage, the supply chain. We need the data and employment-related issues. We need data about the people working in different segments of the renewable energy sector. And we also need the gender dimension. Today, I didn't actually discuss about the gender aspects here. But we think that there is a gender dimensionality, at least in the construction, the manufacturing part, as well as in the operation and the maintenance part as well, which may not be feasible in the fossil fuel-based operation maintenance, but that is quite feasible in the renewable energy-based operation and maintenance. So we didn't actually analyze that part here, but there is a good scopes to explore that part as well. So for that, I think further studies, further knowledge, both national and private sector, much more to take initiatives in the future, like civil society think tank like us. So thank you for your patient hearing. I'm sorry that it is a long presentation I made, but thank you for your patience. Now let's go to the distinguished panelists for the discussion. I have actually differentiate the panelists into two groups. Because the panelists are quite knowledgeable and experienced, and they would like to share with us their views. So we will go in two segments. So first, we like to hear from Professor Khosrow Mohammad Selim, Professor, Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Independent University of Bangladesh. Could you share your thoughts in 10 minutes?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mujib, for the nice presentation and details. So I'm an electrical engineer, So I will discuss rather on the technology perspective, technology point of view, how the employment will be created and how the transition will happen. So actually, first of all, I like to say that the renewable energy sector in Bangladesh, actually at this moment it is based on solar photovoltaic, PV only. And solar photovoltaic systems, actually, there are some sort of limitation in a sense that it needs space, big space. For example, 1 megawatt needs 3 acres of land. At this moment, there are some big solar power plant is happening in our country, we can see. But I believe within very short time, we have the scarcity of land. We cannot progress that much. So, but the prospect is there because renewable energy is distributed, small distributed. That means the country like Bangladesh, we have a land problem, so we can make solar photovoltaic small, distributed, and millions, small but millions. For example, like solar, rooftop solar, that we are implementing in our buildings. That similarly can happen in the village area, in small land, people can use it. And like in solar irrigation system as well. It's small, but millions distributed. So in that case, the employment generation could be generated huge amount. For example, because this is not only related to solar photo panel only, it's a pump, it's a pump controller, and some other logistic things are there. So huge amount of employment can be generated over there. But presently, we are only focusing on big systems. And another thing is, other than solar, we have many other prospects, like biogas-based small power plant, biomass-based small power plant, because we have a lot of rice mills in our country. Each and every rice mill can be a small renewable energy source-based power plant. It's a renewable, it's a green. And also biogas, because we have a huge poultry and dairy industry. So what I want to say that it's a small but distributed and could be thousands, even millions. So in that case, we can fulfill our renewable energy related target. And the employment, definitely, it's a good presentation, but I believe this transition will not happen very soon. It takes time. So the employment in the existing power plant will immediately need to transition. I don't believe that, but new employment will be created, definitely, huge, if we emphasize on solar, biogas, biomass, and wind, other all resources that is available in our country. And in that case, the trained workforce is very important, trained workforce. Right now, it is very difficult to find, even from the engineers, electrical engineers, I found it very difficult to find people who know about renewable energy, energy-related expertise, very difficult. So this is a very big challenge, I believe, because the development of human resource, human workforce. So one thing from the presentation, it has been said that, yes, from the vocational, it doesn't mean we need a university graduate engineers expertise on renewable energy, others, but we need mass scale, lower category educated workforce. For example, from vocational training, through vocational training, right now vocational training is based on conventional related training and based on conventional energy, not renewable. So if we emphasize on these institutions and they have resources and trained instructors and facilities, other infrastructures are there, then there is a possibilities that we can get a huge amount of renewable energy-related workforce from there. Also from technical institutions other than polytechnics and others. And other thing, what I believe that the industry academia, because what is happening in Bangladesh, we just import the materials and set up power plants, but value addition is not that much. So in that case, technical engineers does not have that much of opportunity, because there is no industry academia collaboration here that much. There's sometimes people are asking for expertise from us, from our university, but we cannot provide because of the things of the syllabus and the course curriculum is not 100% tuned at this moment to the renewable energy related target. So I think this is very important. In my university, we are doing something, but I think some universities are doing, but not all the university on the technical institutions are not doing enough to develop human resource related to energy, renewable energy, mainly renewable energy. What my observation is that, for example, government, I'm just comparing one thing. Government have emphasized huge amount of in the ICT sector. So in the root level, a lot of people, lot of workforce is generated. But I believe energy sector is similar like ICT, even more than that. But that kind of initiative is not taken. Therefore, human resource is not generated. So this is a big bottleneck, I believe, for the growth in this sector. And I'm giving a few examples, just finishing my speed before finishing. The rooftop solar, the rooftop, the commercial rooftop, net metering, this type of technology we know. But net metering systems, which is working, I believe, good. But normal rooftop system, where there is no net metering system, we see in almost every building in Dhaka city, there is a rooftop system. But I believe most of the system is not working properly because of technical know-how. Even the owner doesn't know what is happening. Even those who are installed is not installed properly. All this mess actually happening because of the technical know-how, because of the good workforce related to these things, and so many other reasons. So I believe the employment creation, green job opportunity is huge, but there is no plan, there is no good policy, there is no initiative, there is no funding, industry academy collaboration is not there. So because of so many things, this is a big challenge to achieve this goal. So other things, one more thing I like to address, that energy efficiency. This is very important component, because if our system is efficient, if the conventional system is efficient, in that case it is very, you don't need to produce energy. So energy efficiency is very important, and in every industry have the opportunity to reduce power consumption. So in that case, there is also a very big shortfall about the human resource workforce to understand, to assess, and to recommend for industry people how to reduce the, how to increase the energy efficiency. So thank you very much for your patience. So I've finished my my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Khosrow Mohammad Selim. In fact, you have make it much more clear that what's the potential is there. And being a professional, you are regularly observing and doing various kinds of pilot projects, so you have the understanding that how much potential is there. So it is much more in a mini grid level, much more on a smaller scale, SME scales that these kinds of for renewable energy sector may further grow and explore and flourish in the future. So thank you for your information. And you also mentioned about curriculum development, then also coordination related issues. So those are also very, very important points. And also finally, energy efficiency related technologies are also deficient in the country. That is also we found from your intervention. Let me actually invite now Professor Dr. Ijaz Hussain, formerly with Department of Chemical Engineering, Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET. Ijaz, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm always very impressed with CPD's work on these kind of sort of topics. Very thorough and exhaustive. They go fairly deep into many things. Just for my clarification, because I didn't want to interrupt you while you're presenting. This is up to 2030 only. Right. Oh, nothing beyond. Nothing. Okay. So if you're talking about 2030, you have taken what, the government's plan up to 2030? Yes. Which is government's commitment. What was that? I mean,
Mujib Climate
Mujib Climate Prosperity. Okay, fine, that's it. Okay. Now, Professor Khosrow, I'm also an engineer, and I'll try to restrict my comments to technical aspects. And there are other people who would be better qualified to make comments on other environmental, social, and other things. Now, but the first problem that I encounter in these kind of studies is that what is the reality on the ground in Bangladesh? The reality on the ground is that very soon, we will be reaching 30,000 megawatt in the grid. Okay, and that's a reality. And the maximum generation up to now is something like 16,000 megawatt, okay? Now, say what you may, and whatever other people may say, I cannot see that even if you account for 20% of reserve margin, that we will exceed 30,000 megawatt by 2030, okay? So that's the reality on the ground, that, we really don't need anything. We don't need any renewable energy if you look at the amount of fossil fuel investment we have done. That's wrong, of course. We've done something very wrong. We should have been planning for renewable energy long time back, okay? So we've already on a very, very wrong track. Now, why do I say we are on a very wrong track? I mean, we are so wrong that, even if you are a non-believer in renewable energy, you would want to say that you are in wrong track. Why? In the last 1 to 2 months, we have seen, and we still see today, that during daylight hours, when the sun is shining brightly, the grid is producing electricity using furnace oil. Just think about it. I mean, for a minute, just think. The grid is using furnace oil. First of all, using furnace oil as base load is kind of unheard of. I mean, no one does it. I mean, unless you want to throw away your money or you are in deep trouble, you cannot produce electricity, that you will use furnace oil or liquid-based power plant to generate electricity. What is so interesting that 2 months back, during that time, during this morning hours, if you go back, you will see load shedding. So they have done load shedding during the time where you can have solar power plant. And even in Bangladesh, we have reached grid parity. So if you have reached grid parity, why won't we have solar power plant? This is not a question of being a believer in renewable energy, solar or wind. Even if you're a non-believer, you would go for least cost generation. It makes eminent sense. So you would go to that. Now, there is a point at which people who want to promote renewable energy and engineers who manage grids and all, they come to a point where the fight starts. The fight starts at the point where you are asking the grid operator to cut down the fossil fuel generation because we have a lot of renewable coming in. And that happens during the daytime, okay? It's already happened in San Francisco and many other places around the world. they've got different ways of handling this. Sometimes they curtail it. So there is a lot of electricity coming from the renewable energy. They just cut it. Okay, they said, curtailment. Now we can't take it. They don't cut it, no pay. In places in Europe, what we have seen very interesting, they actually paid people to use that electricity. So it's a kind of a reverse thing, because there's so much electricity coming in free. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, and so they almost gave free to people. But everything happens during this morning hours. So we have to understand that when we're talking about a transition, it's a difficult thing. It's an incredible difficult thing for engineers and policymakers to handle transition in their mind when you ask somebody to supply electricity at night, okay? There is no technology, renewable energy, that can supply without intermittency at night, okay? Sometimes you may have wind which is coming, but it's intermittent. You may be there, maybe not there. So at night, the technology available up to now is to use a battery. And what other countries are projecting, like Japan and all, they are advocating hydrogen. India has already started investing hydrogen. So first thing what is your plan? Okay, so that's why, people like me who work in transition, we work in net zero and things like that, we work for 2040, 2050, 2060. Okay, so our models are meant for that, and we do all kinds of work like jobs and all. But you're doing for 2030, which is of course a big challenge, because if you ask me how much realistically renewable energy can you get in Bangladesh by 2030, I would say in the grid, including solar rooftop and all, roughly about 3,000 megawatts you can get to the grid. You can't go beyond that. If you go beyond that, you will get into a fight with people who've already invested in fossil fuels. Now that will depend on government policy. But the government will tell a coal-fired power plant, look, you can't produce because I've got this renewable energy solar coming in at this time. So I will cut you out. You can cut them out, no problem, but you may have to pay capacity charge. Because like I said, you've already made the mistake. You've already built 30,000 megawatts, okay? You're burdened with it, okay? So it's a very, very difficult study, this kind of studies where up to 2030, where the government has already gone on a path which is anti-renewable energy. Now, we all know the Prime Minister announced that a 40% will come from renewable energy just a while back. And very soon after, within 1 month, they changed it. They changed it because they knew it would be highly unrealistic to think 40% of the electricity will come from renewable sources. They changed it to what is called clean energy. So they changed the term to clean energy. Essentially, this clean is in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. So it's kind of decarbonization. So they are talking about decarbonization, that by 2040, we will do 40% decarbonization. Now, we know that a nuclear power plant is coming up. Now, whether a nuclear power plant is acceptable for decarbonization or clean energy, I do not know. But I think reluctantly, UNFCCC and other bodies are accepting nuclear energy as a decarbonization source, mainly because of countries like Bangladesh, what the previous commentator said, that we don't have enough land, okay, which may or may not be true. We can go into a long discussion on that. But important thing is that we have to count nuclear energy in this mix, okay? So let's say we will already have 2,500 megawatt of electricity by the end of next year, or by the end of 2025. And this will remain in 2030. So in your model, what you're projecting, remember, nuclear power plants don't shut down. So it'll be run as a base load in year. So if you have let's say, demand of, let's say, 25,000 megawatt, of which 2,500 you'll have to take out that in this job model because it's there. And how much of the coal-fired power plant you will keep running is also important. And then some of the gas-fired power plant. Remember, we already have 5,000 megawatts of gas-fired power plants sitting idle, and 2,000 megawatt is on the way. Okay, so a lot of power plant will be sitting idle in Bangladesh Even if you don't do renewable energy, and if you do more renewable energy, more will have to sit idle. So, we are in some ways a total mess, okay? And, we talk about this greening and everything else, but we put ourselves in a very, very difficult position in terms of greening. Now, you mentioned something about storage. I really do not see that Bangladesh will be buying even 1 kilowatt hour of electricity from storage by 2030, maybe later. Okay, so Bangladesh government will only be buying what is produced in the daytime, which is roughly about 10 to 12 cents per kilowatt hour. That can, depending on 2030, the total demand, like I said it's 3,000 megawatt. There are studies which says that Bangladesh, without disrupting the grid, which makes eminent sense, grid parity, we can take in between 1,700 megawatt to 3,500 megawatt. There is a detailed study showing that that's how much we can take without disrupting the grid. If you are willing to disrupt the grid in the sense that your other power plant, which are baseload power plant, remember what happens in Bangladesh in winter, our power demands really comes down. So if you're talking about 10,000 megawatt, let's say in winter, of which you have got 2,500 nuclear power plant, let's say 4,000 of coal, and then some very strong baseload gas, you're not left with very much to put renewable, unless you are willing to shut these things down to allow nuclear. Now, you can always store, like I said, and use it, but that's battery storage, and 10 cents per kilowatt hour becomes immediately 20, 25 cents per kilowatt hour at the minimum. So these challenges are there. Now, in the model that you talked about a centralized model only. You did the calculation. Like I think the previous speaker said, if you consider a decentralized model of supply, like let's say we hypothetically we can transform 50% of our irrigation to renewable. Lots of jobs, like you said. Yeah, I agree. And so that amount will be taken off from the grid, and it will be supplied by distributed energy over there. So those kind of studies will be there. And like you said, and you rightfully said, this is all mathematics. Anyone can do this. With the coefficient of this, you multiply. But the real challenge is skills and trainings for the jobs. Now, I'm very sorry to see that even the most famous university of technology in Bangladesh, where I come from, Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, we are not teaching renewable energy. As far as I know, there is no course. Who will teach first? Will it be the chemical engineering or the mechanical engineering or the electrical engineering? Electrical engineering is not interested in many ways. Mechanical engineering, for a long time, they never believed in wind energy. So what will they teach? They're not interested. They gave it up. And chemical, those kind of things are kind of, it's okay, renewable. So, we have not geared our sort of higher educational system towards renewable energy. That needs to be done immediately. If you're talking about transition, if you look at the Paris Agreement, the kind of commitments that we will have to comply with, it's you can't play around. I mean, for one thing, in about 10 years' time, Europe will stop importing garments from Bangladesh for sure if you are not net zero. Absolutely, I can write it down. They'll say, we'll just go to some other country. Okay, so your industry will have to be net zero. Maybe, I'm not talking about the whole country, but your industry, they can do it in different ways, but they will insist. There's already, I think that where you have to pay an extra tax is already come into force. Right? And you have to declare your carbon content of your production. And if it doesn't match the European Union's, you will have to pay a certain amount of tax to make it equal in terms. So those things are coming. So we have to start playing the game. So we have to understand the days of fossil fuels are over in some ways. It may be 30 years for some country, 40, 50, maybe 100 for Bangladesh. China has asked for up to 2070, okay? So they want 50 more years to do that. But we can, and by that time, you will not even get those technology. So how will you build a power plant? So we have to prepare for this, and this kind of calculations that you have done is extremely helpful in understanding that how we have to prepare and what are the implications of a transition. Like I said, the transition that we are studying is what is called the net zero study. If you have time, you can go to the internet and see the net zero study of United States of America done by the Princeton University. Very detailed, beautiful study. We always think of solar, but in Europe, in the transition model, there is more biofuels in Europe than solar. There's biofuels, there's solar, there's wind, there's a lot of other things, and that's how it goes. So solar is very important, but don't ignore the other. Biomass is important, but of course, we have problems with biofuels. But we have a problem in Bangladesh. We don't even know our demand properly. So we are chasing a kind of an aspiration which will never be met. And that one of the reasons why we have 30,000 megawatt today is because we thought we will be consuming 30,000 megawatt today, because we have misrepresented our demand. We thought our demand will be very, very high. Our demand, which is today 16,000 megawatt, the highest, it should be at least 22,000 according to the projection. And by 2041, it's like 60,000 megawatt. Tell me when to stop. I should, right? Okay, that's okay, yeah. So I think the first and foremost, in any kind of transition, the skills development and engineers, the university education must be strengthened, and technicians, polytechnic educations, where we have the technician. I think Mr. Dipol Borua will talk about the technicians required, because he has actually worked with them. He knows about the technician requirement, the centralized and the decentralized model, what you need to do. And the last I want to finish is that, I asked somebody, look, you're asking a country to become, let's say, carbon neutral. What happens if I import all my energy? What happens to that situation? Let's say I import a huge amount from Bhutan and Nepal. I import from India. So am I free? I have lots of nuclear. Okay, a little bit of solar and this, that. Can I become sort of green in that way? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ijaz Hussain. In fact, Dr. Ijaz Hussain has raised some of the issues of the current context and some of the future realities, which also need to be taken into account. But at the same time, I also like to add here that the energy composition or the overall energy based on the fossil fuel may take some changes, because government is at this moment is phasing out some of the power plants, and also is planning to it's planning to go for no electricity, no pay modality. In that case, the capacity payment burden or the additional fiscal financial burden would be reduced, even though there may have an excess electricity. Let's see how things go. But I take some of the points which are quite important to actually finalize the report. Thank you for your intervention. At this moment, may I request Mr. Humayun Rashid, though here we mention him as President Bangladesh International Business Forum of Bangladesh, IBFB, definitely he is the president there, but our main interest here is that his long experience and working in the power sector. He is the managing director of Energy Pack Bangladesh Limited, so we will be very happy to hear his perspective of views regarding the energy transition and how they foresee overall changes in the coming years and decades.
Thank you. Good morning and assalamu alaikum. If you see the backdrop here on the back, there's 3-4 people are working with the solar, and everybody need to follow the OSHA guideline. That's the occupational safety guidelines. So there is one employment opportunity for next 50 years is occupational safety. So I understand that today what we are discussing about that is mostly on job and job market in future related to the energy sectors and changing the energy sources, primary energy sources. Where we can address that today, if you see the per capita power consumptions, energy transfers to power. It is interrelated. It is interrelated, and if you see the per capita consumptions in India and per capita consumption in Bangladesh, we are far behind, we are half. But we cannot ignore that last 50 years, we have a lot of changes. Lot of changes. We must appreciate the policymakers, but we need to change a lot of policies for our future for another 50 years, which has been addressed here about policy reformations, new policy adaptabilities. I'm from the private sectors. I can share my experience of last 42 years. I'm working with the energy, and my company's name is Energy Pack, means pack the energy for the future generations. We named it 42 years back. We addressed save the energy for the future generations. We need to address no more generations, prioritize the energy savings, 10%, next 2 years target. About 10 to 12,000 megawatt is peak hour demands. And if we can save about 1,000 megawatt we can save. Let's target that. So we can save a lot of money on investments. That is from the private sector, I will prioritize that thing. The job market in future is fantastically good. Fantastically good. We need to address a lot of new areas to work with. Whereas everything has been addressed. The environmental challenge will be more addressed so that environmental and due diligence engineers need to understand, and education should be focused on that. I don't know how many universities are focusing on that. Finance is one of the biggest challenge, big time challenge for the power generations or power maintenance or anything. So do the EPC, lot of new people is required and new legal formation is coming. We have to understand, the lawyer must understand the laws of the country or overseas or the bankers or financing agencies. Every document must be bankable. We need to deliver the project on time. We need to avoid the bureaucracy, and we need to improve the logistics. What I said, we need to improve the occupational safety. It is very important that the days is coming. It will be not bankable if we do not address the occupational safeties. IT securities, SCADA, and other securities is very important for tomorrow, so that knowledgeable people we need those people are educated from the institutes, and they can manage, handle, and can, there is a lot of security issues in future is coming, so we have to address that. So there is an opportunity on that type of jobs. Supply chain is one of the biggest challenge. Supply chain, global and local, both. Engineering is one of the biggest challenges, so that proper engineering experience is required, so that these people who are going for retirements or they're going out of the jobs, they can go and start working on the engineering sides. There is a lot of other issues and opportunities the country needs for future employments, and most of them have been addressed. Local manufacturing. Why local manufacturing? Local manufacturing must be prioritized. Number one is warranty support. If you need the warranty support, local manufacturing must be addressed. Local value additions. This country cannot depend on imported goods. Why? One is no warranty, no service support, no replacement support. These are the big time challenge. So the local manufacturers should be prioritized. So local manufacturing and transmission and distribution equipment must be sourced from the in-house countries. Bangladesh have the capabilities for manufacturing up to 400 kV system voltage. Transmissions and distribution should be considered as one of the most priority thing because of reliability and the quality. We cannot focus on this medium voltage, and we have to have the medium voltage, obviously, but we have to focus on extra high voltage transmission lines. And so that we need a lot of engineers to address that EHV lines, DC lines. So there's big time opportunities for the future generations. If we want to address that, we need the policy reformations. Without the policy reformations, without the new policies, we cannot touch the future. Solar is a solution, but equally we cannot disagree with the hydrogen, energy storage facilities. These should be covered, and the engineers and skilled people can come up, and they will have the new job in the new segments of the energy transitions. That is my belief. Operation maintenance, service maintenance, this another scopes. In future, there will be unmanned plant operations for the large plant or solar-based power plant, whatever it is, so that we need the back support people, those who understand, have the IT knowledge. One, but we cannot ignore that operation maintenance is one of the biggest challenge in future. We are discussing about last 50 years. Now we need to discuss about next 50 years. So next 50 years, we will see a lot of changes on the primary energy, power generations, power distributions, and transmissions. So that we need a lot of people on the innovation sectors. Innovations, without innovations, we cannot sustain. So R&D is one of the key sectors where academia and industry can work. I'm from the private sectors. Again, I'm saying I'm from the private sectors. Why? We want to do it, but we do not have the knowledge. So knowledge sharing, and we can work together to innovate what is the future, and we can address the future. In future, what I can see that the cross-border transmissions distribution will be coming. Like Nepal will generate the hydropowers and will export it to Bangladesh during the monsoon time or summertime, and the winter time, Bangladesh will re-export their power generations from northern part of Bangladesh to Nepal. There is an opportunities. Explore, government is working on that. So that anything we cannot think about the power sectors in the short period of times. It is minimum is 15 years. It can run up to 30 years, 25, 30 years. So that we have to keep in our mind that energy must be more efficient. And there's a lot of changes will be coming based on the energy efficiency. So we need the people. We need the people who understands energy efficiency. So there's numbers of scopes in futures, especially O&M and the transmission distributions, manufacturing, so that these opportunities we cannot ignore. So private sector can contribute better, academia can come and have a joint venture with the industries, and we need the policy from the government so that the policymakers can help the industries to keep growing and creating more jobs for the new generations and for those peoples who have the experience. We understand that the climate change is one of the biggest challenge. Mujib Climate Prosperity Plans we need to address. Based on that, CPD is working fantastically good, and I appreciate, thank you for inviting me, and I hope that if in future, if they need any support from the private sectors, I will be very glad to help or share the knowledge. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much, and you have a nice morning. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Mr. Human Rashid Bhai, thank you for your intervention. In fact, there's an excellent intervention, and you have raised some of the very interesting and points. Basically, often we actually highlight on the generation part, and not so much on the transmission distribution part, and we found that you have given some of the insights on the transmission and the distribution part. And very interestingly, you have raised the issue of OSH issue, occupational safety and health issue. That is also an interesting one. And you also mentioned about the local manufacturing with having warranty support. That is also an important, and we need a extra high voltage transmission line. For that, we need skilled engineers there as well. Thank you for your very thoughtful intervention. Definitely, private sector will be the key in the future energy sector growth, and definitely we need your support as a frontline soldier. And as a knowledge-based workers, we could actually provide you the knowledge and other kinds of information support there. We have two other distinguished guests here. One is Mr. Muhammad Alauddin, Rector, Bangladesh Power Management Institute, and another was Ms. Fahmida Akhtar, NDC, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Employment. May I request both of you to hold for 10 minutes for an open discussion, then we come back to you for the final points. Let us actually open the floor now. Could you please introduce yourself and make your remarks in brief, 2-3 minutes? Please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm from BRAC University. My name is Rohini Kamal. I'll just base my comments on the report. Thank you for a really thorough and important piece of work. Most of the examples for successful transition came from the Western countries, maybe including India and China would be useful because they did a very fast transition, especially China, from coal to solar, and they're nearer to our economy, so that would be useful. The numbers, so the main finding is that that in 2023, this sort of transition will actually add jobs, net. And so these numbers had two drivers. One is the trend in the fall in fossil fuel and increase in renewables. For the trend in the fossil fuel, I think Professor Ijaz kind of hinted at that. By 2030, the number of coal plants that will be phased out, is it matched by the number of new coal plants that are coming on? We know the number of coal plants coming on because we see that the coal line is flat. So the fall in furnace oil and gas I have no issues with, but just whether it really is flat, because that whole number is driven by that fall. And the employment multiplier coefficients is from Way et al. And the number is very heavily driven by the solar manufacturing. It's 5 compared to 0 point something. In Bangladesh, as we know, that manufacturing of the solar, it's not happening here. So maybe using countries where, either doing our own finding our own multiplier, which is possible, or if you want published work, then using multiplier from countries which imports the solar panels would be easier, because this is, I think, will be high and we might not see. Because this is direct, I don't think it calculates some of the upstream employment in coal and gas, especially in earthworks, because earthworks and ground preparation is outsourced usually, and that has a lot of low-skill work. Huge number of people are employed, and you need less people in lower scale and low wage for some of the renewables. So maybe having a plan for how to, making sure the distributional impacts are also taken into consideration. How do we plan for all the people who are now, so I would just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your inputs on the methodology part. Please.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for this excellent workshop with excellent interventions today with excellent panelists. My name is Hartmut Behrendt. I'm here from the German Development Corporation on the ticket of the GIZ as project manager for the implementation of the Climate and Development Partnership between Germany and Bangladesh. And one of the important sectors is indeed the just energy transition. just transition is indeed a driving force all over the world, which is gaining very much force in the moment. And I listened with a lot of interest how again CPD was at this workshop outlining one of the huge important subjects for the future, skills for the just energy transition. I noted with very much interest the interventions, especially from Mr. Rashid now about the private sector, because for our climate and development partnership, the exchange formats with the private sector are of enormous importance with the academia, and you brought all these things together today excellently. And I think we should always keep in mind our target is to fight against climate change, where of course Bangladesh is very much needs adaptation, but we have to look into the future also to see how, when it gets an industrialized country, how the emissions will increase, and therefore look how to really solve this problem from the energy sector. I realize with a lot of interest that we have a lot more capacities for electricity production, generation than we need. But my question is really, how can we solve the problems to bring down the emissions, although we have so much capacities? Is there any other way than the retirement of fossil fuels? This would be my most important question. And I like also to point out that one colleague of ours is here who is dealing with a new project which we just started on skills in the energy sector, so fitting 150% again to this workshop. Another project with which we are dealing, where we are in the lead from EU, is the Team Europe initiative on green energy transition. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you, Professor Muazzam. So my name is Farzana Mustafa. I'm a climate change and environment advisor at the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office with the UK government. So very pertinent presentation. I was just wondering, I mean, if you are actually focusing on the power sector, primarily I would think the guiding document would be the Power Sector Master Plan, which I understand is still in draft and needs to be approved. But I think while we are doing these kind of studies, the Integrated Power Sector Master Plan would be a key document to refer to in forecasting and stuff. I think from the presentation as well as from the remarks of the panel members, it was quite clear that diversification is essential. Whether we talk about, when we talk about clean energy transition, so it would have to be a mix of solar, wind, imported hydro, et cetera. But so with that, I think we need to keep in mind diversification of employment as well. So it's transferring the existing resource to adapt to new type of work, but it also creating a wide range of different skill sets. And there, I'd like to flag the point of equity. So obviously, if we look at the fossil fuel-based industry, it was very much male-dominated. With 51% of the population being women in our country, I think it would be a big mistake to ignore that and not to have it as an integral part of our thinking, planning, and policy process to have. The gender dimensions you've mentioned in the end, but it needs to be an integral part of the thinking and planning process. The renewable energy sector actually creates an opportunity. I mean, it's not as a menu as the fossil fuel. So I'd like to request CPD as well as other stakeholders, the academics that are here, to keep that in mind too. Following on, linked to that, I think Professor Izaz, sir, he mentioned the decarbonization and how we are actually pitching for a decarbonization rather than a clean, having renewable energy transition. And I think there comes the matter of occupational safety and some of the technology that we're thinking to use, for instance, ammonia with coal. We all know that ammonia is probably one of the most dangerous chemical in the world, and even a small spill can kill thousands of people in fraction of minutes. So, while doing all of those, we really need to think about having a diversified transition, but also creating a diversified resource skill set that is responding to the planning we are doing. So if you are doing a decarbonization, then our skill force need to speak to that. So from the UK government, we are working with the Ministry of Energy, Resource and Mineral Power, Energy and Mineral Resources, and SHREDA to help with a more equitable, sustainable energy transition. But I think it's great that we're talking today, and that's how we are going to identify, things that we need to do and gaps to address. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Ms. Farjana. I admit that female issues, at least the equity issues, should be much more highlighted. Let's see how much data available and from where we could give some of the insights in the paper. Let me actually invite Mr. Dipal Borua, who is one of the veteran in renewable energy sector.
Thank you. I think first I'd like to appreciate Dr. Mujib and Center for Policy Dialogue, because you bring the subject, the energy transition, in a forum, in the national forum. I think it is very important, and we know every aspect of energy and power situation in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the 100% electricity connection. This is an example everybody appreciating worldwide. Even at the solar penetration, also the biggest project in energy access, solar home system, and other things is coming up. But I think our distinguished panelists already mentioned many of the points. I think from our culture of Bangladesh, this kind of study and report, I would recommend from our practical experience, we like to give a scenario so that the government feel it, this is need to be considered for their benefit also. At the same time, we give a future scenario also, so that they understand where to go. And Mr. Humayun Rashid mentioned that next 50 years, what would be our scenario? And government thinking of the Delta plan and all these things. I think energy is a biggest challenge in Bangladesh. And even, the foreign currency exchange, if you go through the newspaper, the foreign currency reserve, if you open for the bringing all this primary energy from the abroad, then it will reduce the foreign currency. So I think now the State Minister for Energy always telling that 4,000, 5,000 megawatt already in the pipeline for the solar energy. I think the mindset is changing. This is a good time to push it now, government, about this energy transition. The human resources is very, very critical in Bangladesh. Only few, and we have SREDA, ex-chairman is there, and we have a shortage of manpower, even in SREDA, even in Power and Ministry. Even someone retired from PDB, they are looking for a appropriate engineer. They're not available, because we are really involved for many 2 decades, 3 decades with them, we know. So I think the manpower generation is very important. In this transitional plan, we like to mention what Professor Adas mentioned, BUET, open a renewable energy and energy transition kind of subject or a department immediately, and also so that we can give a specific recommendation. And the women participation also, we should give a specific participation where we have to. Otherwise, the bureaucrats always say, this is a research. They are talking from the books. Letter research is not useful for running the show, running the ministry or running the country. Is very difficult subject. You are from research, you don't know how to run the country. So that kind of things will come up. And then another thing I like to say, what Professor Khosrow mentioned, what should be the mechanism of the transition? One is the decentralized. Because if you go for a centralized, then it is one mindset, you always centralize. And the conventional government always like centralized and bigger place, bigger slice, everything. So we should a kind of a recommendation decentralized. And even I would say, আমার বিদ্যুৎ আমি উৎপাদন করব, আমি শাক সবজি মাছ উৎপাদন করব, why not myself? Even in a developed country we are visiting, the electricity they are producing from their own houses, even their washing machine, everything, My son lives there in Australia. I see using in the daytime for the solar, they are using it. In the evening time, they are using other things. So for washing anything on the daytime, so they are saving electricity. I think why not in Bangladesh? If Bangladesh is not is a part of the planet, you say, oh, this is Bangladesh, this is developed. We are planning for a developed country, a smart nation. Why should we have a smart grid? What you are talking about, the grid is not a smart. So we have to push another recommendation. One is decentralized, one is a smart grid. The grid should be a smart. It's not a underground or a undermined grid which is running by PDB or other things. No, we should have a strong grid, and there are financial ability available. We are meeting so many foreign donors or multinational, they are also UNCW. Everybody say, if government serious, we like to put money for the grid improvement. So I think this is very important, and we'd like to recommend and a specific recommendation. Not like an essay or a big research report or a PhD thesis. We want something, then so we can make it accountable. Why don't we do it? And we go for a debate. I think last 2-3 years, CPD and other civil society doing very good job. They popularized the renewable energy. Much more we are working 2 decades, 3 decades, because not listening to us. But this is a good push, I think, and the situation demanding. And you know, the war is coming up, and new war is coming. So I think we need to be what Humayun Rashid mentioned, we need For the solar, we have a 6 factory not running. So I always say we need a joint venture. Someone has a very efficient, let's say in China or other country, they can have a joint venture in Bangladesh. They produce not only for Bangladesh, they can export it also. So not only the Bangladesh is a market, but they can also eat. I think we know all this, and Professor Adas mentioned nicely everything. We, in the daytime, we can use solar energy, but actually we are used to fund this well, and that putting pressure on our foreign currency reserve and everything. So we need to be, and our privacy intention is good, but I think the Ministry of Power Energy, they are put the country in a big challenge. So I think, and also Professor Azad mentioned the wrong policy long back. I think it is a good time to push it. We need to recover it. Otherwise, it will like a climate change, non-recoverable. So I think this initiative is very good. I need more meeting of this. It may be not big enough or a small one, so you need to finalize the report, and it will be good input for the government, good input for the policy maker, and also for the society also, so they can push it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have with us the Vice President of the Orion Group, another private sector investor. So we'd like to hear from you.
Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellencies. My name is Shamim Reza. I'm Senior Vice President, Orion Group. So I'm looking after 5 power plants of Orion heavy fuel oil-based power plants, and we are having also a solar-based power plant. So from the very nice discussion we had so far with the Excellencies, and plenty of things we have learned. So just I am giving my views regarding this power sector. There can be done anything under the sun, but what should be done, it is depending on our expertise and technicalism. Our energy and power sector still need proper coordination while making new power plants or this converting from fossil fuel to this solar-based or wind-based or renewable power energy sector. So I want to give the example. As I am running all the power plants, I am having the relationship coordination with the national grid. Last week, our 5 of the power plants run very less power factor. This week, this power factor changed up, and the grid wants 100% power factor. So what is the reason behind? We are having the gas starvation for the last few days. That's why all the gas-based power plants dropped down their vibration. So what happened? This heavy fuel-based power plants running in action. This is the way. This is unpredicted, and I don't know whether now I am running a shortage of fuel because suddenly government increased the demand for this heavy fuel-based power plant. So this planning, I don't have also before. So there is a starvation of fuel for the heavy fuel-based power plants. So I'm telling this energy sector, if proper planning and all the coordination is properly implemented, then it can run nicely without any problem, and grid system can work to each and every houses of this country. Definitely, once upon a time, we use this renewable energy, then again fossil fuel, and with the stream of time, this fossil fuel is limitation of fossil fuel gas and other demand of costing also rises. So that's why now again we are thinking of the renewable energy also. It relates with the climate change and other related issues. Definitely, we require this change now, and this change is very important for a country like Bangladesh. Now, I should say this is a very crucial time. Now, heavy fuel-based or fossil fuel plants are running. At the same time, this solar-based or wind-based or renewable energy is rising up. In terms of employment, whatever the keynotes for this skills and power energy sector, this employment opportunities are rising. But at the same time, if we drop out these fossil fuel-based power plants in future, definitely it will be. So where these engineers and large manpower will go? They will be unemployed, employment problem will rise there for them. And at the same time, to keep pace with both the sectors, fossil fuel sector and new renewable energy sector. Nowadays, renewable energy, solar-based power plants are rising up. They need the operation engineers. So from the other sources they are taking. And for us, heavy fuel-based power plant, for the risk assessment, we need the minimum manpower to run the power plants. We can shift our engineers to the solar-based power plant, but there will be starvation and risk will be high to run these heavy fuel or reciprocating engines in Bangladesh without proper or without minimum manpower. So both the things we have to think. And in terms of if somebody, for us, for Orion Group, we are shifting some of the engineers to solar-based power plants so that they can build up their career in the solar-based power plants. But other power plants who are having only solar-based, other companies who are having only the solar-based power plant, while hiring the people, they will look for the experience with this solar-based power plant. If my engineer or reciprocating engineers going for that interview, they will tell you, don't have the solar-based power plant experience. But challenges, our Orion Group taken for some of the engineers, they already shifted to this solar-based power plant. But other companies should come forward because operation point of view and maintenance point of view, whatever the engineers are working in reciprocating engine or turbine-based engine, almost same. We have to think of these mentalities. And regarding the new, in the universities, new subject for renewable energy, it can be a subject, but new track, if we make a new track, so power engineering, I used to take the interviews for the new employees or new engineers. They're coming with the power engineering degree. Somebody is coming with the mechanical engineering degree, somebody electrical and electronics engineering degree. So power engineering sectors only can work in power plants. It is our mentality. So if I am having a, say, Walton or something like electronic engineering, if I submit my CV with this power engineering, they will not accept it. So this is the thing, and if somebody is come out, I am having the certificate or I am having the Bachelor of Science degree with solar energy or something like this, other than solar energy, he cannot work. And our mentality is like that, I will not take the solar energy because he is expert in solar energy. So this is the mentality we are having and psychology we are having. So we have to develop these things. And basically, I'm a marine engineer. Now I am working with the high voltage. So you can understand. And for the last 20 years, I was in United Group and now in the Orion Group.
Okay.
So from another sector I'm coming, I am working and I can work. So our mentality will be such that if somebody is coming with the degree of the solar energy, why should I not take them to other sectors?
Okay.
So we should. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In fact, we found that there are other kinds of transition also being required in terms of the mindset also from the employer's point of view. That is also very, very important. Before actually coming to you, let me invite Lotte Kesa from ILO.
Thank you. Well, it's been great to be here at this dialogue today and hear all these very, I think, informative and useful presentations and comments that have been given. And I would tend to agree that I think we should not underestimate the utility, usefulness of decentralized power development, whether biogas, whether solar, or whatever, and also to recognize the fact that the skills transition is something that's required at all levels. I think the ambition the goals for 2030 are quite ambitious, perhaps unrealistic, as been mentioned. And I think it's not helpful to have unrealistic plans. What is more useful is to have realistic plans for how we can make progress. And I think the first thing is to recognize the role of government in providing the right incentives for this transition, which is, as everybody's mentioned, it is a comprehensive transition that really requires considerable incentives. That can be done both in terms of incentives for financing and also redirecting or rescheduling financing for power transition, which can achieve several objectives, both in terms of local development, in terms of employment, in terms of entrepreneurship. And I think it is also looking at the mainstreaming of this renewable energy focus in existing training and education, rather than starting from scratch with redirecting all curriculums and developing new things, putting in modules that enable, whether it's at high level or at lower level, existing trainings and education to professions to actually take up renewable energy, I think is probably the faster and perhaps also the more realistic way. This, however, also requires, I know certainly the ILO has supported the government in doing so, and I think the rollout of this is a key thing, and the government should really perhaps fast track this or at least prioritize it. Then I do agree that if we also take into consideration the local development, for instance, of solar and biogas, of which, I mean, there are plenty of materials, as been mentioned, at the local level, and link this into the grid, which is done in many other places, as already been mentioned, for instance, Australia. This is already a contribution to that. It is clear that Bangladesh is already challenged on power generation, and probably the phase out, the direct considerable phase out of fossil fuels may be a long time coming, but at least adding these renewable energy sources to what is already being provided, I think would be helpful, and it would be a very good piloting. I think that government can do a lot in terms of policies, in terms of tax incentives and other types of incentives, industry development incentives, thinking not only of, as it was mentioned, the big plants and the centralized plants, but also of local development. So I would say that certainly for the ILO, which is already supporting greening and green sector development in TIVET and also in employment in general, we've been working with the government on this for a while, and we are certainly offering our support in the future. But we know that in order for this to progress, and also for the demand to be there and for the transition to take place, very firm framework, realistic firm framework and incentives need to be in place from government side. So I think instead of plans which we already now can see are very ambitious and perhaps not realistic, it would be helpful to have realistic plans, but also to really plan out each step of how to progress on this issue in each sector. And there has to be some centralization or coordination of that effort in the relevant ministries as well, and institutions. And this has to come out, and that has to be a priority, not just something that some projects are doing on the side, but something that's being rolled out once the piloting has been finalized. Thank you.
Thank you. This side, yes. After then you. Amjad Bhai, I will come to you.
Thank you. This is Tanvir Masood. I'm working as Energy Advisor and Project Manager on GIZ Bangladesh in Skills Development for Sustainable Energy Solution Project. So this is a very good house of discussion. We are enjoying a lot. That one of the observation is like when we are actually preparing the project, we have discussed with several stakeholders, and we have found that there is a difference between education and skill. Every year, we are getting around 10,000 plus graduate engineers, and also engineers are coming from the diploma and vocational associations. But when we talk about skill, maximum of them does not know how to connect the solar or how to do the resource assessment of wind energy. So this gap analysis is needed to be done, and also a roadmap should be there. And there, our project from GIZ Bangladesh is working. We will develop a roadmap and with the discussion of stakeholders that how this skill sector should be developed for next 10 years. And we will also closely working with NSDA, National Skill Development Authority, and Bangladesh Technical Education Board. But the difference is there, that Technical Education Board is always thinking about developing the curricula, but Skill Development Authority is going for a short course and make the workers skilled. So I think other development partners are also coming in the same way. So hopefully we'll have a successful project. And for any kind of suggestion from this house, we are always open. We can connect me, and also my colleague is here, Hartmut. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We will soon close the open floor discussion for 1 minute each, please.
Thank you. I'm Benuka Ferdowsi, Senior Research Fellow from Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, BIISS. I have 2 points to add. First one is, it is regarding the source of employment. I think you might add another source of employment coming from the renewable, energy transition, which will come from the politics or competition regarding renewable energy between the US and China. Let me a bit explain that. We all are aware about many of us are aware of the trade war between US and China. But many of us may not be aware that similar competition, or I will say a more fierce competition, is going on in renewable energy sector, where China controls 70 to 80% production of solar panels and wind turbine materials and others raw materials. And so there's a competition going on, and US and EU and other opponents, competitors of China, are increasingly imposing trade restriction on renewable materials coming from China. So from there, we can take an opportunity we can think of catching the relocation of Chinese renewable farms in Bangladesh. And for a research of mine on renewable energy politics, I have talked to one of the top Chinese companies, one of the global top leader of Chinese solar company, and they said that they are very much interested in such relocation for 2 reasons. Bangladesh's strategic location, which is near to the market of Africa, they are thinking of exporting there, and they want to relocate the plant in Bangladesh. and also the cheap labor force of Bangladesh. So we can utilize this, and that can be a source of our employment coming from renewable.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that's a very interesting point to hear from you. Our final commentator from the Open Floor discussion is Mr. Mullah Amzad, editor, Power and Energy and Power. 1 or 2 minutes, Amjad bhai?
1 minute is okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's a nice issue, especially skill development. I think before go to the point, already Farjana mentioned this point. We have plenty of good policies in Bangladesh, and still Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, there is a lot of question. Who developed the energy part of it? Before go with anything with the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, we have to discuss more and more with this. And my personal belief is that last 40 years we tried to integrate our energy system, but nowadays to go for distributed energy sector, if we really mean the expansion of non-fossil fuel energy, especially renewable energy, through here, Mr. Alauddin, I actually borrow one idea from his one idea is that every sub-district generate 20 megawatt of solar and connected it to the local distribution line. And everyone knows that it is not a big deal for the government to find land for 20 megawatt solar power plant in Upazila level. And my final word is that please advise government, or you campaign on it to develop trainer for the skill development for people development for the energy sector. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for the open floor discussion. I think we have a very good, enriched discussion that comes from the floor. Now we have kept our two distinguished panelists waiting for a long time. Through their deliberations, we will conclude our today's session. Let me actually invite at first Mr. Muhammad Alauddin, former chairman, Sustainable and Renewable Energy Development Authority, and rector, Bangladesh Power Management Institute. So over to you, Alauddin bhai.
Thank you, Dr. Mazem. I must appreciate your presentation because you have shed light on a new aspect, employment and skill in Power Development Board. We all are aware that energy and power is an evolving nature of sector. So high research is going on throughout the world on energy and power. That's why today global energy transition is underway. If we want or not, it will happen. But to make it happen, it will not automatically happen. We need manpower. And to be precise, trained manpower. I appreciate your paper that you have mentioned some of the essential skills needed for this transition, and I believe this portion of your paper will be helpful for the government while they are planning for their skill development scheme. I believe it will be useful for them. I also must take clue from Professor Ijaz, his 2 words, that is on-ground reality, because we need to take into account on-ground reality. We are all aware here, who are here in this room, that we did adopt renewable energy policy in 2008, and in that policy, 2 targets were set. That was a time-bound target, but fact remains that we could not achieve. Now it begs the question, why? You put the target, fine, but without any directory as to how you will go there, number one. And also you have mentioned another policy in your paper, that is Renewable Energy Policy 2023, I believe, which is in the making, yet to be finalized. Again, another problem is this: to make a policy, you are supposed to know your resource endowments, but still we are yet to know many of the policies. We have got no idea. For example, say you have mentioned wave energy, you have mentioned geothermal energy, and also there are other, you have mentioned bioenergy, but unfortunately, in case of bioenergy, here we have Professor Ijaz with us. They have made a very good report on it, but still, it is in desk. nothing is done. So that's why on-ground reality is important. Whenever we make any comment, any suggestion, we must keep it in mind, doability of this report, how it can be implemented, because government has to take a holistic view. Otherwise, fragmented recommendation, hardly government take any step for implementation. This is one issue. Another, I beg to disagree with you one point. I apologize for this, because in your very structured paper, you have mentioned about policy recommendation. One of the policy you have mentioned is feed-in tariff policy. Definitely, German was the pioneer of this policy, but this policy has two flaws. So far my knowledge goes. One is, so this policy, because put a huge pressure on their economy, number one. Also, another problem with oversupply problem for feed-in tariff. That's why German government, you can correct me if I'm wrong, already revisited the feed-in tariff scheme, and they are also reshaped their feed-in tariff policy schemes. In Bangladesh,
Usually you run it for a small period in the beginning.
that is, thank you for the supplement, because normally for expansion of any technology, it is needed for a take-off stage. I believe Bangladesh now past that take-off stage. So I believe this feed-in tariff policy recommendation, I think you can rethink of this recommendation. This is my one suggestion. Another is renewable energy problem. Already Professor Izaz has said the main problem of intermittency of renewable energy. To address intermittency, you need storage. But once you go for storage, it will not be affordable for you. So in the days to come, we need to put stress on our hydrogen energy. Definitely, still it is not affordable for a country like Bangladesh. This is my belief. Already the technologies are also at research stage. But what is important, our readiness is important. So that if we have sufficient kind of trained people, once technology is affordable, so that we can catch that. This is should be our strategy in terms of skill development. Another problem is, fine, one suggestion has come from our journalist that we need to train our people. He has also talked about the master trainers. Who will you train? Already those who have got existing knowledge. I can cite one specific example. Say, here Dipal Baru is here, he is also he led one of the POs, partner organization. They have done an excellent job in terms of penetration of solar home system. But unfortunately, the further expansion of solar home system is not possible because they have attained some kind of saturation. But still, the POs are there, their technicians are there, so we need to retrain those people, those who had already trained before. So while preparing a training policy, those people should be prioritized. This is my point. The POs, partner organization of ITCOL. Another thing, we always talk about private sector. Definitely, private sector has done an excellent job in Bangladesh in terms of penetration and initiation of renewable energy. But for private sector to come in and invest, they need business model. It is a reality. We are a market economy. So that's why, until and unless you can find out a business model, it will be difficult to attract the private sector. While I was chairman SEDA, I did study at some length about devising a business model for rooftop solar. And fortunately, we have found that under net metering scheme, there remains a business case for industrial and commercial consumers. So, like in other case also, we have to develop somehow or other business model so that private sector can come in and adopt. And this is another point. I cannot make my speech systematically. I'm in a hurry, but still I must make my points. Another is, we can think of, this should be a wish list. We will go for 30% renewable by 2030. It is, I'm not saying anything impossible, but definitely it is challenging. And also, with your domestic resource endowment, it is, I can't use any extreme word, it is challenging, not impossible. So how do you do that? For escalation of renewable energy, you must depend on importing renewable energy. To be specific, it is hydropower. In South Asia, only Nepal and Bhutan can export hydropower on a net basis. It is technically possible, politically challenging. Now move on to ASEAN countries. Our close neighbor, Myanmar. I was astonished while attending a seminar in China when I came to know that Myanmar has potential of 40,000 megawatt hydropower. If we can import by our diplomatic or the other initiatives, only 5,000, we can cater to the need of Chittagong division. So these are the steps I think should be taken. This is my specific proposal. Another thing is again, Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. I had the opportunity to skim the report, but there are some important ideas, words without any directory as to how we can reach there. And there are also some technological guidelines which are still yet to be available in the market. Another thing, definitely private sector, government should show the way, and private sector should lead and go. So for attracting private sector or for expansion of any technology, we need what in the Western world called ESCO, energy service companies. Let's say Professor Ijaz has huge rooftop, so let's say 200 square meter. If he want to install a rooftop solar, can he do it? How can? That's why he need support from energy service company. In Bangladesh, it is missing. That's why if anyone is interested, he is really willing to, an industrialist or owner of a commercial building, he can do it because effective energy service company is not available. And from my side, I also put forward a suggestion to the electricity utilities. Why don't you open a renewable energy cell in the utility so that if I am in need of installing a rooftop solar, I will just give a call to MD that I have so many spaces, please help me, I will pay the amount required for the installation. That's why they can increase their business. Only selling electricity like the Karun Bazar shoppers that you buy wholesale from PDB and retail it to consumers. So you can widen your business horizon. That was my suggestion. I think they in principle agreed, but still I don't see any initiative. So with this, thank you so much. It is always a learning session for me when I attend CPD workshops. Once again, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammad Alauddin, Rector, Bangladesh Power Management Institute. We really always enjoyed your interventions and your very thoughtful suggestions and also the various kinds of knowledge-based, your experience that you share often with us. Before I going to Mr. Mahmoud Akhtar, Additional Secretary. Okay, yeah, thank you. So a journalist requested me to brief them in Bangla. So let me actually use 2-3 minutes before I going to you. Just 2-3 minutes I just give in Bangla. সেন্টার ফর পলিসি ডায়ালগের পক্ষ থেকে আজকে আমরা বাংলাদেশে জ্বালানি সেক্টরের উত্তরণ এবং এর অভিঘাত কর্মসংস্থান এবং দক্ষতার ক্ষেত্রে কি হতে পারে সে বিষয়ে একটি বিশদ রিপোর্ট আমরা উপস্থাপন করেছি। আমরা এই রিপোর্টটির ক্ষেত্রে দেখতে চেয়েছি যে 2030 সাল নাগাদ থেকে 2050 সাল নাগাদ সরকারের যে জ্বালানির ক্ষেত্রে যে পরিবর্তন আনার যে লক্ষ্য, যেমন 30% নবায়নযোগ্য জ্বালানি 2030-এর ভিতরে 40% 2040 সালের মধ্যে, যেটা মুজিব ক্লাইমেট প্রসপারিটি প্ল্যানে বলা হয়েছে, এবং অন্যান্য প্ল্যানগুলোতেও এই একই রকমের টার্গেট করা হয়েছে। এই ধরনের পরিবর্তনগুলো আনা গেলে সামগ্রিকভাবে বিদ্যুৎ খাতে কী ধরনের কর্মসংস্থানের ক্ষেত্রে পরিবর্তন আসবে এবং নতুন ধরনের রিনিউয়েবল এনার্জি যেগুলো আসতে যাচ্ছে নবায়নযোগ্য জ্বালানি, যার ভিতরে আপনারা জানেন যে সৌর রয়েছে, বায়ুবিদ্যুৎ রয়েছে, হাইড্রো পাওয়ার রয়েছে, বায়োমাস রয়েছে, এগুলো আসার ফলে কী ধরনের কর্মসংস্থানের ক্ষেত্রে কী পরিবর্তনগুলো আসবে সেই বিষয়গুলো আমরা এখানে তুলে ধরেছি। আমরা যেটি পেয়েছি সেটা হলো যে 2030 সাল নাগাদ সরকারের লক্ষ্য অনুযায়ী যদি বিদ্যুৎ খাতে পরিবর্তন আসে তাহলে প্রায় 9,000 নতুন কর্মসংস্থান তৈরি হতে পারে, যার প্রায় পুরোটি নবায়নযোগ্য জ্বালানির কারণে হবে। এবং এক্ষেত্রে যদি আরও লক্ষ্য যদি বেশি হয় জ্বালানি উৎপাদনের, বিদ্যুৎ উৎপাদনের 53,000 মেগাওয়াট, তাহলে প্রায় 33,000 নতুন কর্মসংস্থান হবে, যার প্রায় 80%ই নবায়নযোগ্য জ্বালানির মাধ্যমে হতে পারে। আমরা এখানে যেটা পেয়েছি এই স্টাডির মাধ্যমে যে এই ধরনের নতুন এই কর্মসংস্থানের মধ্যে নতুন বেশ কিছু জব তৈরি হবে, যে জবগুলো আগামী দিনের জন্য আমাদের খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, যেমন রিনিউয়েবল এনার্জি টেকনিশিয়ানস, এনার্জি স্টোরেজ স্পেশালিস্ট, স্মার্ট গ্রিড ইঞ্জিনিয়ার্স, এনার্জি অ্যানালিস্ট, এনার্জি এফিসিয়েন্সি এক্সপার্টস, গ্রিন বিল্ডিং ডিজাইনার্স অ্যান্ড আর্কিটেক্টস, এই ধরনের নতুন নতুন জব ক্রিয়েট হবে এই সেক্টরে। আবার কিছু কিছু জব আগামী দিনে যেগুলো এখন কিনা জীবাশ্ম জ্বালানি সংক্রান্ত বিদ্যুৎ কেন্দ্রগুলোতে রয়েছে তার অনেকগুলো হয়তো আগামীতে কমে যাবে, যেমন রয়েছে হলো ফুয়েল হ্যান্ডলিং অ্যান্ড স্টোরেজ পার্সোনাল, অ্যাশ ডিসপোজাল স্পেশালিস্ট, বয়লার অপারেটর, কোল ইয়ার্ড ওয়ার্কার, কনভেয়ার অপারেটর, অয়েল এবং গ্যাস রিফাইনারি ওয়ার্কার, এই জবগুলো কমে যাবে। তো সামগ্রিকভাবে যেটা এই স্টাডি থেকে এসছে এবং আজকের ওপেন ডিসকাশন থেকে যেটি এসছে, এই ধরনের কার্যক্রমের ক্ষেত্রে সরকারের একটি সমন্বিত পরিকল্পনা থাকা দরকার। যদিও পরিকল্পনা ইতিমধ্যেই রয়েছে, তবে এই এনার্জি ট্রানজিশন এবং তার কারণে কর্মসংস্থানের ক্ষেত্রে যে সমস্ত পরিবর্তনগুলো আসবে সেগুলোর যেন একটি কম্প্রিহেন্সিভ একটি পরিকল্পনার অধীনে এনে তার জন্য কোথায় কী ধরনের স্কিল দরকার এবং কোথায় কী ধরনের ফাইন্যান্স দরকার সেই জিনিসগুলো যেন সরকার বের করে আনেন এবং সেই অনুযায়ী যেন কর্মপরিকল্পনাগুলো আগামী দিনে গ্রহণ করা হয়। এর ভিতরে রয়েছে কারিকুলাম ডেভেলপমেন্ট, ইউনিভার্সিটিগুলোর সঙ্গে ইন্ডাস্ট্রি লিঙ্কেজ তৈরি করা, এর একই সাথে ট্রেনিংয়ের ব্যবস্থা করা, রিট্রেনিংয়ের প্রয়োজন রয়েছে, সেই জিনিসগুলোর দিকে নজর দেওয়া, এবং একই সাথে বলা হয়েছে ট্রেনার তৈরি করার মতো কাজ যে জিনিসগুলো হয়তো আগামী দিনে দরকার হবে এই জিনিসগুলোর দিকে নজর দেওয়ার কথা বলা হয়েছে। একই সাথে বলা হয়েছে যে জেন্ডার রিলেটেড, যেমন এটি যেন একটা ইকুইটেবল একটা যেন ট্রানজিশন হয় ইস্যুর দিকে, এমপ্লয়মেন্টের দিক থেকে, সেই জন্য যে জেন্ডার ডাইমেনশনগুলো, নারীর কর্মসংস্থানের যে সুযোগ সৃষ্টি হবে সেই দিকগুলো যেন আগামী দিনে সরকার নজর দেন তার কার্যক্রমের মাধ্যমে, সেই বিষয়গুলো এখানে তুলে ধরা হয়েছে। এটুকু বলে শেষ করছি। হ্যাঁ, এই মুহূর্তে আমাদের রিনিউয়েবল এনার্জি রয়েছে প্রায় 4.5% রয়েছে। আমাদের সামগ্রিকভাবে আমাদের যত এনার্জি ক্যাপাসিটি যেটা রয়েছে তার 4.5% এখন রিনিউয়েবল এনার্জি রয়েছে, কিন্তু সরকারের এই মুহূর্তে পাইপলাইনে প্রায় 10,000 মেগাওয়াট নতুন রিনিউয়েবল এনার্জি প্রজেক্ট রয়েছে যেগুলো আগামী দিনে বাস্তবায়িত হবে। তবে সরকার বলছে যে যদি পুরোটুকুও না হয়, অর্ধেকও যদি হয়, তাহলেও তার যে 2030 সালের টার্গেট 6,000 মেগাওয়াট সেটা অ্যাচিভ করার সুযোগ তৈরি হতে পারে। আমি আর রাখতে পারছি না, আলাদা করে কথা বলি। হ্যাঁ, এই স্টাডিটা করার ক্ষেত্রে আমরা আসলে মূলত এই ধরনের ক্ষেত্রে প্রজেকশন মেথড ইউজ করা হয় এবং এটার জন্য যে কোএফিশিয়েন্টগুলো যেটা সবচেয়ে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, সেটা আন্তর্জাতিক এনার্জি পলিসি নামে একটা জার্নালে একটি আর্টিকেল প্রকাশ হয়েছিল এই এনার্জি প্রজেকশন নিয়ে, এমপ্লয়মেন্ট প্রজেকশন নিয়ে। সেটা ওয়েই নামে একজন চাইনিজ বলা ঠিক না, প্রফেসর ওয়েই নামে একজন ভদ্রলোক, উনি এই কাজটি করেছিলেন, দুজন অন্য ইকোনমিস্টকে নিয়ে এই কাজটি করেছিলেন। সেই মেথডটা আমরা এই স্টাডি করবার ক্ষেত্রে ব্যবহার করেছি। ধন্যবাদ। আপাকে আমি অনেকক্ষণ বসিয়ে রেখেছি, ধন্যবাদ। আমি মিস ফাহমিদা আক্তার, এনডিসি অ্যাডিশনাল সেক্রেটারি, আপনাকে বিশেষভাবে ধন্যবাদ জানাচ্ছি, আপনি অনেকক্ষণ ধৈর্য ধরে আমাদের এই প্রোগ্রামে ছিলেন। আমি সমাপনী বক্তব্য দেবার জন্য আপাকে অনুরোধ করছি।
থ্যাংক ইউ। First of all, thanks for inviting me to be here to hear from you regarding the study A on energy transition in Bangladesh, specifically with a focus on employment and skills. At the outset, I must thank Dr. Muazzem M and his team, and also CPDE for conducting this study E and disseminate the study outcomes among us. As I am representing Ministry of Labor and Employment here, I wouldn't focus on energy issues. I am not an expert on energy, so I would rather take this opportunity to appraise all of you regarding the activities of our ministry, that is Ministry of Labor and Employment, in relation to employment generation. You all are aware that employment generation is a multi-sectoral issue. Only this ministry is not responsible for it, and only this ministry couldn't ensure this. So we need all stakeholders to be onboarded and have to be coordinated, and then we can ensure our desired level of employment. And this ministry is also considered at the national level employment issues and policy and also interventions. Energy sector is a subsector, so it has to be designed by the respective ministry how they want to intervene in the energy sector to create new employment and to skill their manpower, and what they have in their upcoming plans and programs. However, it is really encouraging to learn that the net employment and generation will be positive if we move towards renewable energy in the coming years, especially by 2030. That is the SDG target for us. So that's also very encouraging for us to know. Skill development already discussed, and now I like to draw your attention on, as we have mentioned, about the social benefits we have to ensure when we have to consider the employment transition in the energy sector. Also, government is also working in it. You are aware that government already formulated national social security strategy, and with this strategy, our ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Employment, is responsible to formulate few different, at least 4 different categories of social security programs for our workers or employees of the nationwide. And already we have initiated EIS, that is the employment injury scheme. Let me mention that we start with our RMG sector. That's our largest sector of the economy, which is a labor-intensive sector. So we have introduced our pilot. The pilot implementation has been already started for RMG sector. That is the employment injury scheme. The employees will receive lifetime pension, and also in case of death, workplace death, and permanent disability. These 2 casualties will be addressed under EIS. And the framework was designed in 2020, and we started disbursing our compensation this year. So we consider this an achievement and also a positive step initiative of this ministry. Now we are working with unemployment insurance, which has been mentioned while the study was presented. And what we are planning that, in fact, unemployment insurance, random basis, we have initiated it while to address the job loss of RMG sector during COVID. So during COVID, we realized that this kind of social security system, protection system is needed for our workers, for our employees. And not only the government, also the employers, they also realized that they need it. In fact, you know that in our ministry, in our MOLE, whenever we consider any proposal, any approach, we have to discuss it in a tripartite fashion. We discuss it with the employers forum, we discuss it with the our workers forum, and then we ultimately, on basis of tripartite consensus, we move forward to our next steps. And what we are planning under our unemployment insurance, that 3 months insurance coverage will be provided, and still it's in the discussion stage. We are trying to make it contributory from the owner and from the workers, and also we will explore how government could participate, and we also believe that our development partners and the brands, at least for RMG, they will come forward to participate in this initiative of the government so that we can ensure our unemployment insurance system. For the RMG sector, definitely we will start with the RMG, and whenever we'll have a standard model, then we will roll out it for the other sectors. Maybe energy will be a sector of. And also the issue. Let me share with you that as this ministry deals with labor part and also the employment part, and we have formulated our national employment policy in 2022, and now we are working with the all the concerned ministries like Ministry of Technical Education, Ministry of Education, so that we can formulate a national action plan which will be implemented in the coming years. So it's in the preparation stage, and also we are working with establishment of a separate department, so that our dedicated people will be there who will handle the issues relating to our employment, but specifically the labor market matching issue, which has been mentioned in the study, that we need a system, we need a mechanism has to be in place so that we can provide appropriate information to our employers, to our workers, when there will be job loss, there will be permanent, or when they enter in the labor market. So this kind of mechanism we are trying to establish in the coming years, and I believe our Honorable Prime Minister already approved the summary for establishment of this employment department. So we believe that we will start with on-ground activities very soon. Another issue which was discussed in the study, that is a green job creation, or green job, what the term? Green job notification or reporting. So, but right now we have Green Factory Awards. We usually review all our factory facilities, so and we provide Green Factory Awards annually, so that the industries who are working in the field, they can they feel encouraged, and they try to ensure all the safety issues to be in place. They should focus on minimum energy, environmental pollution to be minimized, and also waste management to be ensured, and also the issues like they have to ensure proper health and hygiene issues to be also addressed. So I think we could easily make a bridge between this green job reporting system to our Green Factory Hour system, so that we can move forward with it. And the issue of OSH, as mentioned by one of our panelists, Dr. Humayun Rashid, about that one new field will be the safety security issues. You are aware that our Department of Factory and Establishment Inspection, they are right now they are doing this. They are responsible to ensure the safety issue, and also the OSH issue, the occupational safety and health issues in all the enterprises. It's very challenging. It's very they have a limited manpower. Though we have increased, then budget is also limited. So we have established an institute now, which we are calling as the NOSTRI, and we welcome all our private sector partners to train their employees in the safety security issues so that they can ensure the targeted safety issues in their enterprises and go for green businesses. With all this, the last point for me is that obviously to do all this initiative, to be materialized, to be in place, we need resources. And government resources is very limited. We want all our stakeholders to come forward so that we can build a partnership, so that we can ensure all our desired. We want prosperous Bangladesh. We want smart Bangladesh, and we have to work hand in hand so that we can ensure it. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much to CPD for inviting me to be here and to share our thoughts and ideas with all this August gathering. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Fahmida Akhtar, NDC Additional Secretary, MOLE. In fact, we are very encouraged to know that already MOLE has taken a number of initiatives. Happy to know that an employment department will soon be in operation, and also the job matching issue are already in consideration. And also here to know that unemployment insurance issues are already will take shape, and we hope that these kinds of transitional jobs, not only in the ready-made garment sector, but also in the non-ready-made garment sectors, will also be duly care of there. And also the NOSTRI training facility can be used for training for the safety-related issues. And as you mentioned about the Green Factory Award, and where you are also mentioned that to add green jobs as a criteria there will definitely add value to the overall green-related development in the country. So thank you with these words, and thank you for your patient hearing and staying for a long time. We learned a lot today, and with this we like to end today's dialogue here. The lunch is given outside. We hope that you will join with us in the lunch.